welcome to this installment of Frank and Mary here in Southborough. If you haven't seen this show before, my name is Art Bergeron. My day job is as an elder law attorney at Myrick O'Connell up the street in Westborough. But this is not about my day job. It's about my friends Frank and Mary. If you've seen my presentations at the Southborough Senior Center, you know Frank and Mary, their goal in life is to live in their house until they die and be buried in the backyard. And if that's Southborough, that means right here. They don't want to go someplace else. And so the question is, who are the people they need to know? What are the programs they need to know about in order to do exactly that, in order to spend the rest of their lives living happily ever after in Southborough? So as a regular opener for our show, and by the way, Doug Peck, my usual guest, is not, or my usual co-host is not here today because he got his second shot yesterday. And so he's not feeling great and he's at home. But he's a happy guy, he got his second shot. So speaking of which, Pamela Francis, I know you're at the seniors, you're like always there. You're always like doing stuff and there's a million things going on. So tell us and tell the folks in Southborough kind of what's new and what could they be expecting? What's new in terms of vaccine? What's new in terms of your Southborough, the Council on Aging programs? What's new?
What's new? Well, I wish I could tell you some great things are new and exciting and everything was back to normal, but we're still kind of in a holding pattern. And at the Senior Center, as you probably know, we're reformatting our programs. We do a lot of Zoom programs. We do a lot of different things on cable, and we do our drive-through. So what's coming up? We've still got our strength training class. We've got a stretch class. We have chair yoga classes. We have a Qigong class. So there's plenty of room for exercise out there. If anybody's looking for something like that, just give us a call. We've got a number of programs on cable and Zoom. There's a program on Evacuation Day. There's another program called Rosa Parks, It's My Seat. There is also a St. Patrick's Day program, which would be a lot of fun. And of course, we've got virtual legal advice from Arthur Bergeron. So we've got a lot of things.
Always a big moment in the schedule, yeah.
So don't miss out on that. We also have some drive-throughs coming up in the next couple of months. We've got our St. Patrick's Day luncheon drive-through, which ironically is kind of where we left off last year. So last year we weren't able to have our St. Patrick's Day party. We did a drive-through to make up for it. And this year it is going to be in that format again. So that's coming up on Wednesday, March 17th. So don't miss out on your annual corned beef and cabbage. We have an opening day for baseball. That's a special drive-through. So I bet you can just imagine what's on the menu that day. Just pretend you're at the ballpark or take it home and, watch the game and have your lunch then. That is Thursday, April 1st. And we've also got a drive-through with Tina Bemis. So we're going to pretend spring is back, whether it is or not. And you can pick up one of her kits, make something lovely for your front porch. We're also going to have another drive-through with Kennedy's during that time period, and that is mac and cheese. So we're trying to put in some extra drive-throughs and hopeful that the weather is going to be better than it is right now. So right now, I think it's below zero with the wind chill factor as we speak. So we've got a lot coming up. So we'll be happy to see you at those events.
And Pam, it's getting close. It's the beginning of March and it's crummy, but it's always crummy at the beginning of March, But what's nice is it's almost April, right? So
right. And, yeah, our newsletter is the March, April newsletter that just went out. And so I think we've got our coldest month and hopefully our nice spring sunshine in April. So fingers crossed. We'll get
Pam, thanks a million. Thanks for doing this. I know you need to go back to your day job, and I'm gonna talk to Alex Gottfried about reverse mortgages. But thank you so much for this. And once again, folks, if you've got any questions, any kind of issue, Pam is there. They are there to solve the problem. Pam, just once again, just give them the phone number if they've got an issue that they want to give you a call.
Yep, phone number is 508-229-4453. Give us a call. If somebody is not in the office, please leave a message. We get our messages immediately through our email, and someone will call you back. So
Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks. We'll talk again soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So Alex Gottfried, Alex is a reverse mortgage specialist, and I know it was a friend of Doug Peck's. But Doug was, was talking, was saying wonderful things about the work that you've done with him and with clients of his in the past. And so he thought you'd be an ideal person to have on. As it happens, as I mentioned before we started doing the show, I am a big fan of reverse mortgages. I try to really encourage people to think about these as an option. I never cease to be amazed by how many people reject reverse mortgages out of hand because of some kind of preconceived notions about that. And so I'm really excited that you can be on to kind of talk through a lot of these issues. But could you start off, Alex, by just talking a little bit about, where you got to be where you are? Who are you? Why are you doing this? What's your backstory?
Sure. For years, I was in the software business, in sales and sales management. And I used to call on large credit unions all along the East Coast. And CEOs from these credit unions would ask, does your computer system originate and service reverse mortgages? And the answer was no. But I wondered, what is a reverse mortgage? And, because I knew what a forward mortgage was, but not really a reverse mortgage. And I guess around 2000, the end of 2005, the company I was with was sold twice in 18 months. And I decided that I was tired of the road and I hated my luggage and it was time to do something else. And I decided to pursue the reverse mortgage business. And so I've been doing this for 14 years. I don't do any other types of mortgages, only reverse mortgages. And I've done probably about 250 of them.
And Alex, where are you? Where do you live? You're not in we're in the ether. We're all in the ether someplace these days, so just for people who are wondering.
I live in Framingham. I cover the whole state, but most of my activity is in what they call Metro West.
It's close by. Okay.
Yes. So, and I still do everything face to face. Most seniors don't have enough technology to use, Zoom and other things. So we mask up, glove up if we have to, socially distance, explain the program, and go through the whole process. So
I can get into that. That's what I've been doing for the last several months too. I was at a lady's house in Ashland the other day, and just kind of talking about what the issues are, or talking about with their particular issues. So talk a little bit about, start off with just kind of what a reverse mortgage is, kind of how it works. And then if you could just speak to the from your perspective and from the conversations that you've had with seniors, the benefits to seniors and like the pluses and minuses. And then if you could get to what the kind of misconceptions are, and I'll talk a little bit about that too, because I've heard a barrel of them, so we can discuss those issues. Okay.
I can go through a brief presentation and it'll cover many of those topics. We'll begin right now. So the reverse mortgage program, it's a government designed, regulated, and insured residential mortgage loan program. It's aimed at senior homeowners 62 years of age and older. They need to live in their principal residence and have clear title to the property. It enables them to tap a portion of the equity that they've built up in their home over many years. They can use the money for any purpose. There are multiple payout options available, and I review those always with the borrower. There are no monthly mortgage payments to make. That's the key piece of this program. There's no requirement to make monthly mortgage payments. Why is it called a reverse mortgage? Well, typically, simply define the payment stream of your traditional mortgage is reversed. With a traditional mortgage, you make monthly mortgage payments. Your debt goes down and your equity goes up very small, incrementally month by month. With a reverse mortgage, you make no monthly mortgage payments. So your debt goes up and your equity in the property goes down over time. The reverse mortgage has been a consistent government program for 31 years. President Reagan signed this into law in January 1989, in the last month of his presidency. And actually, it was a very bipartisan sponsored program. The Democrats liked it because it was a benefit to their constituency. And the Republicans liked it because it wasn't going to cost the government any money. Major features since the inception of the program: again, the standard qualification age of 62. The borrower is responsible for taxes, insurance, and maintenance on the property. The property must meet FHA property guidelines. There are no monthly mortgage payments to make. HUD credit counseling is required as a prerequisite before we can do the application. The loan is FHA insured. It's a non-recourse loan, meaning that the only collateral pledged for this loan is the house and the land it sits on. Generally, it's settled in one payment upon permanent move out by the borrower. In 2009, the government introduced a reverse mortgage for purchase program. It enables seniors to buy a more right-sized property, so they could sell the big center entrance colonial and move into something smaller and more adjustable for their needs as they grow older. And you could use a reverse mortgage to purchase that property. So the equity from your sale of your current home would be used as a down payment, and you'd have no mortgage payments going forward with a reverse mortgage for purchase. Same general qualification criteria as a regular reverse mortgage. Also now in Massachusetts, there are two proprietary reverse mortgages, and let me explain why that is. With the government program, the national lending limit is $822,325, and it places a limitation on how much can be borrowed when you have a high value home. Jumbo reverse mortgages are good for Southborough because the home values can be up to $4 million and still utilize a reverse mortgage program. Why would you want to deal with me? Well, I only originate reverse mortgages, and I do it. It's the only thing that I do. And I have, I mentioned 14 years experience and 250 some loans. And everything is done face to face, and I'm responsible for a positive outcome.
So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. That's it.
So I think it's a great summary, and it's a great kind of place to start, you know. So let me go back to some of the things that you were just talking about. So
Yes.
one of the reasons why I so often suggest that people look at reverse mortgages if they're seniors is you know, what I mentioned at the beginning of the show. I always refer to my friends Frank and Mary, my make-believe couple.
Right.
And I say to people, so the issue with Frank and Mary is they've got a house and it's worth some money, and they've also got they've got some savings and they got an IRA and stuff. And so they feel like they're comfortable, but they want to know that if there's an emergency, there's a place to get some money, right?
Right.
And so I encourage them. I say, you know, one of the ways that you can do that is by having a reverse mortgage. And that the nice thing about the reverse mortgage is that it's a line of credit loan, right? So it's like you get a big credit card that's secured by your house, but you don't have to use it right away. And there's no interest that accrues while you're not using it, right?
Right.
But one of the issues that comes up, of course, is when people are looking at reverse mortgages, they're comparing them legitimately to home improvement loans, to
Right.
HELOCs, to home equity lines of credit, HELOC, HELOCs, right?
Yeah.
And so can you just talk about from your experience dealing with folks who are thinking about the same thing, who, you know, they're not in an emergency situation right now, but they just want to know that they've got this kind of safety net, right? To take, so they can draw from if there's an emergency. So you can just kind of talk about reverse mortgage versus HELOC in those situations.
Yes, the reverse mortgage has a feature called the line of credit. And that's the amount available to the borrower at any time. If the borrower doesn't use the line of credit, it grows at with a rate of interest. The availability of the money grows over time. So a good feature of this is, and the government, it can never be canceled. It's insured. It's always available to the borrower. Even if the lender goes out of business, HUD takes the loan over, and that money is always available for the life of the loan. With a HELOC, in most cases, you have to take out a minimum balance. They don't want to just put a zero balance on a HELOC and have you wait to get it. The other thing about a HELOC is that they can stop the availability of money at any time at the discretion of the bank. During the 2008-9 housing crisis, many HELOCs were eliminated. In other words, we don't want to eliminate your loan, but you can't draw any more funds. Well, that's
I didn't know.
Yes,
I'd never heard about that.
that's not a good thing.
That's not a good thing. No,
Right.
no.
So with a HELOC, you have to make monthly mortgage payments, they're required. And I guess recently, a few years ago, the government stopped being able, you can't deduct it as an interest deduction on a HELOC. You can on a first mortgage, but not on a HELOC. So the reverse mortgage has.
Excuse me. So that goes to a very important piece. Because that's a big deal. So you're saying because the reverse mortgage, I think you mentioned at the beginning, you have to have clear title to get the reverse mortgage, which means you can't have any other mortgages. So this is a first mortgage.
Yes.
So the payments that you're making on this mortgage are tax deductible?
Yes. Well,
On the HELOC?
most people don't make any payments on a reverse mortgage. They can.
But if you wanted to.
Yes, it's what they call a payment optional loan. If they want to make payments, then that money is tax deductible, and they'd get a 1098 from the lender saying they paid this much interest in 2020, and they could take it off their income tax.
Right. So I simply hadn't realized that was a feature.
Yes.
But I had never heard that on the HELOC cases, that there were some cases where they just turned around and said, "Oh, sorry, you can't borrow anymore."
Yes.
So I know that when people are shopping in this case for those two options, right? The thing that intimidates them is the upfront cost of the reverse mortgage. Can you speak a little bit to that issue? Because I think that obviously is it's a big deal for folks, because once again, if you're Frank and Mary, you got your house, you got some savings, and my kind of, just to give you a sense of this, and commonly what I'll say in my example is I've got a house worth, say, $400,000. I've got savings of $200,000 and an IRA of $200,000. And so Frank and Mary are living along with Social Security, and the issue is where's the backup money? So in that situation, obviously they've got a concern that money they've got a limited pile of money. And so, big closing costs are going to sound scary. So can you talk about that issue?
Right. Well, the only out-of-pocket cost really, there are two. The counseling session is about $175, and the appraisal is about $570. So $700 some dollars for closing costs, which would be out of pocket. All of the other closing costs come out of the proceeds of the loan, which are really paid over time and upon final move out would be settled. The government has a 2% insurance premium on the home. So that same $400,000 home that Frank and Mary live in, they'd have to pay $8,000 for that, but it's simply taken out of the proceeds of the loan at closing. The average.
So if I could just add there, so I think, because I think many people, they see these big closing costs and they're like, oh, these banks are ripping me off. But I think as you pointed out, the point is that this big chunk of money results from the fact that these are insured loans. These are federally insured loans.
Yes.
And basically the government is requiring an upfront payment into basically the mortgage insurance pool, right? That's
Right.
where that money is going. That's the first thing. And secondly, that typically, this is a reverse mortgage, so you can use some of your line of credit to pay those costs, right?
Yes.
To cover some of those costs. And then, so I'm gonna use that example. The example that you just gave me was that there's it's a 2% fee. So if my house were worth $400,000, whatever the line of credit is that you were giving me, it would be a 2% of $4,000 or $400,000 or $8,000 fee, right?
Yeah, it would be part of the initial loan balance. That $8,000 would be part of that.
Right.
The average reverse mortgage since the inception of the program lasts 8.25 years. They've calculated this out. So 100 months is the answer. And that if you amortize that amount over 100 months, it's not that bad it's not an upfront penalty, if you will. It's spread over the life of the loan. There's also an origination fee, which the lender collects at closing. And the reason for that is, with a traditional mortgage, 1 month after you close, you begin making interest payments to the bank. So the bank is earning interest over time. Over an 8-year period, you can imagine how much interest you've paid on a forward mortgage. Well, with a reverse mortgage, you've made no payments and you've paid no interest. And the lender needs to capture some money up front to be able to service the mortgage and pay the origination company to do the mortgage. So that's why there is an origination fee. I mean, then it's
is there a typical origination fee kind of across reverse mortgage companies?
Yes, yes, there's a government formula for calculating the origination fee. So that's fixed by the government. Now, the bank, in the case of where you get a low appraisal or there's some issue where there's not enough funds available, the bank has the ability to lower the origination fee to make the loan fit the borrower. And that's occurred before.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. So can you just kind of talk about some other cases where you think that reverse mortgages would be appropriate?
Okay, well, one of the biggest uses for the reverse mortgage is home care or home health care. The borrower has enough to live in the home, pay the taxes, provide for themselves, but this is an expense they weren't planning on, and the reverse mortgage enables them to cover that cost. Another use of the reverse mortgage for younger retirees is that they have a forward mortgage, they're going into retirement, they're now going to be on a fixed income. The mortgage payment is going to kill them cash flow wise going forward. The reverse mortgage can be used to pay off the existing forward mortgage, and they can, they have a better cash flow situation.
And that's a big deal. That's a big
Yes.
deal. I know so often folks will talk to me, when I look at the kind of standard seniors budget, unless you've got big health problems, that your tax bill, and if you've got a mortgage, your mortgage bill is often your biggest expense,
Right.
next to food, right?
Right.
And oftentimes these folks have mortgages they've had for a while. They've got a kind of a high fixed amount that they have to be paying every month, right?
Right.
And I just tell folks, you're looking at that, but do you really need that? And I realize inevitably folks will say, well, I want this house to go to my kids. And I'll say, I'm all with you. That house should go to your kids, except that's after you die. The notion that you should be, living on a shoestring before you die,
Right.
so that after you die, the house can go to your kids. That's not really what your kids would want.
Right.
Typically the kids will say, Ma, Dad, this is your money. You saved up your money. Go use your money. Right.
Sure.
And that's a real hard one. So do you find folks using the purchase money reverse mortgage very much? Because I was, literally, we're all oblivious, and we're outside of our own little zone, and I hadn't kind of heard about that. But it seemed like a really interesting idea that you allow someone the classic Southborough person whose house has gone way up over
Yes,
time, and now they want to, you know, shrink down to a condominium, to something that's more, that makes more sense. So
right.
they cash out of their house, they bank that money, and then they have the reverse mortgage to cover
Purchase.
the new purchase.
Yes. Let me explain about that. That most seniors don't want to purchase another single-family home. They're done with maintenance, lawn cutting, snow shoveling. They want
Done.
somebody to handle that for them. They
Right.
found a nice condominium 5 miles away and they really like it, and it's available. But it's not HUD approved. And with a purchase of a property, everything's on a timeline that you have to fit into. The reality is that with the reverse mortgage for purchase, only 2% of reverse mortgages are purchases. 98% are where mom still lives in the home and wants to get a reverse mortgage. I was going to mention another reason that people get reverse mortgages is that dad passed away 3 years ago. His now life insurance money is gone. And mom still wants to live in the home because they've lived there since 1968 and they like it. And she doesn't want to move. Her kids live in the area, but the taxes are going up and her costs are going up. And her Social Security was eliminated because she had to choose between hers and his. And there's less cash flow available. The reverse mortgage solves that problem. So
That's a big deal.
yeah,
And I
Yeah.
know, and I'm watching the clock because I want to make sure that we don't run over here. But I just want to mention one other thing, which is extremely important for seniors. For many of the people who I speak to, you mentioned, you know, they're concerned about home care perhaps in the future. So they're
Right.
also concerned about qualifying for Mass Health in the future if it turned out that they needed to, right?
right.
While at the same time protecting the home. And as I mentioned to them, the wonderfulness of the reverse mortgage in that case is that if for a senior, if they have the reverse mortgage, if they convey out an interest in the property to their kids, like a remainder interest, but
Yes.
keep a life estate, because they've kept the life estate, that transfer is not a default under the reverse mortgage. It would be under a HELOC without the
Right.
permission of the bank. So it's a big, big deal, you know? So Alex, I really appreciate you taking this time, you know, and
Sure.
kind of outlining things to people. And I know that, you know, you're going to, we were speaking to the folks here at Southborough Cable and, you know, you're going to have your contact information in case people want to reach you, you know,
Yes.
but I think this is really valuable. So folks, you know, think about this, right? And if you want to talk to somebody, you know, once again, this is Doug Peck's friend. I just met him, but he looks like an honest guy. But the point is, think about this as an option. If you've got this kind of situation, you want to stay in your house, but you want to feel safe. You want to know that there's enough money kind of quote unquote in the bank if there's an emergency. You may want to think about this, right?
I'm
So
all about education. I'd like to meet with people, explain the program. If it makes sense, great. And if not, that's okay too.
yeah,
But they
because-
learned a little more than they knew before I got there, and I like that. So
Exactly. So, you know, it's worth looking. It's just worth looking. And it's worth looking before there's an emergency, right? That's my
Yes.
my mantra with Frank and Mary. So folks, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next installment of Frank and Mary here in Southborough. Thank you very much.
Thank you.